All right, fellas, we're going to wind down tonight with a look at a weekend of college football to come. The action is already going on tonight with a top 25 matchup between BYU and Boise State. And Saturday is a full slate. Michigan looks to bounce back against number 13 Indiana. Florida, Georgia's battles for the SEC East title, pretty much anyway. Cincinnati defends their number 6 ranking against Houston. Number 1, Clemson's without Trevor Lawrence on the road against Notre Dame, who's number 4. And the Pac-12 is back for the night action. So, Drink, what are you looking forward to the most on Saturday?
I got a couple of games on Saturday that I'm looking forward to, but let's talk about the game tonight. I know it's outside of the question, but hey, I just want to throw a little love about that. Number 9 BYU against number 21 Boise State. The game gonna be on FS1. Listen, I think this game got early implications as far as those group of 5 teams that's out here, beating their chest. BYU being one, Cincinnati being the other one. Those 2 teams are the top 2 teams right now. Cincinnati at number 6. This is interesting. Can Boise State go out here and, be the season depleters, as they call them? Because when you lose one game as a group of 5 team, you go ahead and hang it up. Can they go out here and spoil the season for BYU? BYU is scoring at an impressive rate. Impressive. I want to say they're the number 1 offense in the nation right now, if I'm not mistaken. And they're top 5 in pretty much every offensive category. It is. I don't know. This team is impressive. So I'm really wondering, can Boise State come here and make it interesting? And I'm glad it's a Friday night game. Give them the stage to themselves. Let's see what they do with it. Now, enough with the advertisers and the small talk. Let's get into the good stuff. We got the world's largest outside cocktail party going on tomorrow, minus the fans and the tailgating. So I don't know what it's going to look like now. But
a little bit of fans, a little bit.
Okay. Few fans, no tailgating.
Illegal tailgating.
Oh, okay, illegal tailgating. You know what I'm saying? I used to get my cable like that back in the day. Either way, all right. So we got this game going down. Number 4. They still number 4. Number 4, number 5. All right, number 5, Georgia. Number 8, Florida. I had to make sure. I think they should be number 4 in front of Notre Dame, but you know what I'm saying. I know how you are the Irish fans, so y'all pretty loyal, even though y'all ain't done nothing since like the 80s, but they're here now. So we got this game going down. This game will, for all intents and purposes, name the king of the SEC East. Georgia, Florida, very interesting. We got Florida as a high-powered offense, but they haven't played a defense to really let us know if it's for real. You got Georgia that plays some real defense, but that offense, their quarterback, they call him the mailman. Well, he must have mailed this game to another address because it ain't in Athens. But you got a very contrast of styles here. This game is going to be very interesting because Florida defense – it's not it, buddy. It is not it. But I do think their defense is good enough to stop Georgia's offense because all you really have to stop is the run. Now, I know I'm saying all you got to do is stop the run like it's really easy. They got some boys up there blocking. They got some running backs behind them. I got that. But if you can take those wide receivers out of the frame like Alabama did in the second half of their game, that's what you have to do. You just have to take those wide receivers, those short slants. You got to make them throw. You got to make Stetson throw the ball down the field. I do think Florida has the talent to do that. Could they do that consistently? I don't know. We'll see. But you're going to have to because I'm telling you right now, Florida do score at a high clip, but I don't think Florida is Alabama when we talking about the offensive, skill set. And I do think Georgia going to get enough stops. It's just, will Georgia be able to run the ball to run the clock out, kind of like what they did to Kentucky? Because that's what they're going to have to do. Because it's Kyle Pitts, Tony, all these dudes coming at you. Look, they ain't no joke. They're going to come at you. But can Georgia defense keep them in the game where the offense can put up? I would say in order for Georgia to win this game, they're going to have to score at least 30 points. If they can't get to the 30 threshold, it's a wrap. I'm telling you right now, Florida can put up 31 points. They can put up 31 points, even against a good defense. They might, slowly like trickle it in, but they could put up 31 points. So I think Georgia, you got to be able to get in them 30s. If you 14-3, that ain't gonna cut it. But 21, no, that ain't it. You're gonna need to put up 30. That's the first game. I do take Georgia. I just think Georgia defense will find out how to get enough stops. And then I think, their offense would get the ball down the field and they'll get some drives going. I do think they meet the 30 threshold and beat Florida. All right. And then my second game, this top 5 slugfest game of the century, whatever else they're going to slap on here to hype it up and make it sound like Ali versus Frazier. You know what I'm saying? The slugfest is all slugfest. Number 1 Clemson versus number 4 Notre Dame. Now, let me tell you something. Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame been out here catfishing fans since the word catfishing existed.
Oh, my God.
They've been out here with the Irish back. Oh, they looking so good. Poo, 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 poo. And every single time you wrap your arms. So when you go to Notre Dame, you say, hey, so I want to meet up this weekend. Let's go out and eat. Oh, I'm so sick. I can't come out. Oh, man, I'm just throwing up. Oh, stomach, diarrhea. That's Notre Dame. That's Notre Dame. Like, oh, yeah, I can't make it out. Oh, you know what? My mom just broke a leg, so I got to go take care of her. I can't make it out. Maybe next week. That's what Notre Dame. Like, they've been catfishing people for a while. So I'm supposed to believe because Trevor Lawrence got COVID and old DJ, I can't say the rest of his name, going to come out here. Yo, I think Clemson's still going to roll Notre Dame. The only reason I give Notre Dame a chance is because their defense have been playing at an okay level. But who have they been playing at an okay level against? You got to ask yourself, like, what juggernaut offense did they play? And you was just like, oh, they still look like the real deal defensively. At least Georgia can say, well, we had to play Alabama. That was Alabama, but everybody else when it showed up. Notre Dame can't say that. So when you try to sell me on how good their defense is, my question is always, what offense did they sell you that on? But they get a chance Saturday. Here we go. So they get a chance to go ahead against Clemson, and if they're as good as everybody say they are on the defense side of the ball, we will see. I just don't believe in the hype. You know what I'm saying? They say ghost real. I ain't seen one yet. I don't know. Listen, it is what it is. Hopefully by the time this game come on, the election will be over so I can fully pay attention to it. But as far as this go, I just don't – I don't know. I don't believe in Notre Dame. I think Clemson win this game by 14 points or more, and then Notre Dame go back to being the overhyped team that they're always – every year, they're just the best thing since sliced bread. They go back to being overhyped, and then we go ahead and get them out the picture. But right now, I'm taking Clemson by 14 because Notre Dame offense, I don't think is going to do a lot with Clemson's defense. And I know for all this crap that I'm hearing about, I don't think they're going to stop Travis Etienne. The quarterback ain't going to get – he's not going to have to make as many throws as people think he will have to make. I think those playmakers will get it done for him. So, yeah, like I said, I'm thinking 35-21 Clemson. That's my thoughts on college football.
I gotta get two non-college football thoughts out the way real quick because they just need to be said. Number one, I hate to break it to you, the election will not be over by Saturday night. I've already stopped paying attention to it. We got litigation and all this stuff. I wouldn't even worry about it. Check back in a couple weeks and we'll see how they doing. Also had a uniformed personnel person try to tell me, it's probably gonna be decided this weekend. No, probably not. And I'd also like to say that fella was a lieutenant, and you know how they can be. So you don't even worry about it. Secondly, I have to say, you've been in absolute pristine form tonight.
Thank you.
We're doing fake throw up sounds, and Mama didn't broke her leg. It's progressively just reached great level. I just have to give you credit for that. But to the actual action, it's pretty much a 2-game race this weekend. We got a 3:30 big one in the SEC East, and we'll start there. It's definitely a contrast in styles. When we talk about, there's a lot, much like we talked about the teams in the NFC with having flaws. A lot of teams that play really well on one side, and then you look at the other side and you're wondering, well, could you give me something over there? And that's the epitome of really these two teams. There's a lot of teams that don't play any defense and they have a lot of offense. That's certainly not Georgia. Georgia is the one team, and you probably look at them in the SEC and you'd say Georgia has the best defense. The question that we have, and we saw it against Bama. When you look at Stetson Bennett, you look at can he give you enough to keep you afloat, and maybe when that defense is having some trouble against some of these high-powered offenses, will he give you enough points? That's the big question. And then conversely with Florida, I mean, you rolled down some of the guys, whether it be Kyle Pitts and some of the other weapons they have, and Kyle Trask. I think Cody's onto something. I think he's a guy that we could look at come NFL draft time. We got to take him a little bit seriously, and I got to make a very strong effort to put a K at the end of his name and not an H. It's so easy to do so, but he's playing lights out. I got to give him credit. But it's definitely, when you look at that game, I'm not quite sure how to pick it. Vegas has the spread at 3 in Georgia's favor, and Georgia's the home team. So that's pretty much a pick 'em. I think home field is worth about 3 points, and it's hard to judge home field with the limited fans. So I think a low-scoring game, I think it favors Georgia. If it's in the 20s, you probably go Georgia. Now, if it gets to the 30s and beyond, I think that's really got to favor Florida. So I think that's the thing I'd pay attention to. Conversely, when you look at Clemson and Notre Dame, it's an opportunity for Notre Dame, and they get them with Trevor Lawrence being out. The spread in that one is at 5.5, so Vegas thinks it's going to be competitive. And when you talk about, historically Notre Dame coming up short, particularly in the Brian Kelly era, this one, if Notre Dame's really the 4th best team in the country, which I think all of us are a bit skeptical on, you probably need to win this game. Because no Trevor Lawrence, you're at home. You've got some of these things working for you. I have been pretty consistent in saying I suspect Clemson is not quite as good as they were last year, and I think that's really going to show up if they are able to win this game and proceed on to the college football playoff. I think that will show up then. But this is about the best probably opportunity if you're Notre Dame. I mean, you couldn't get any more fortunate with the timing of Trevor Lawrence and his positive COVID test. And he wasn't, I believe, according to Dabo Swinney, just didn't have enough time to, come back through all the different protocols and such. So this is one I think you really got to have if you're Notre Dame, or else, I mean, you're just going to get laughed at. It's just going to be the same old thing. You can't get it done. Why do we even have you at the number 14 of the nation if you can't win this game? And then just a couple more quick notes. I think right now, and I always like to go back to the college football playoff because that's where all roads lead. I would say right now, up to this point, I would only say one lock, and I think it's Bama. I think Alabama's the one lock. The second one I look at is probably Ohio State. I think you could look at them in the Big Ten. We'd like to see a little bit more from them, though. And then Clemson, we go Clemson. But, again, there's a big question mark. With no Trevor Lawrence this week, if you lose to Notre Dame, Notre Dame, that would be really your one really signature win you get, because we know how questionable the ACC is, even though the ACC has benefited from the rankings so far because the Big Ten and, dare I say, the Pac-12 they got that late start. So if they lose this game, it's hard to imagine that they could get back in the thick of it unless, they make it to the ACC championship game and they maybe get Notre Dame again. And then maybe you could flip the script on that. But then, we talked about the Big 12. It already appears, unless Oklahoma State can run the table, win the Big 12, I find a hard time. I have a hard time believing that. I know we don't believe in the Pac-12. But by saying that, the Group of Five could be very interesting. And with how this year has gone, if there was ever a year to have some weird stuff happen, this would be the year. So a team like Cincinnati, which is number 6 in the rankings, and they appear to be playing very well. This is the type of year where maybe we could look at a Cincinnati and we could throw them in. Also, got to remember also the SEC East. Whoever wins Georgia and Florida, they're going to have the inside track, but they'd have to run the table and beat Bama to get in. And that would be the most likely scenario where you can just go ahead and forget about the group of 5 is Alabama, Georgia, or Florida, and then Clemson and Ohio State. But if that doesn't happen, if Georgia, whoever wins Georgia, Florida, if they lose another game, we could have to maybe pay some attention to a Cincinnati or a BYU because I don't believe in the Big 12, and the Pac-12 is out here already canceling games. So
Well, hold on, Jay. So you telling me right now, like, I get what you're saying, like the math, I get it. But like, do you think, let's say Cincinnati is the best team out of the group of 5, that Cincinnati team can beat Oklahoma?
I'm not saying they can beat Oklahoma, and I'm not saying they'll be considered when the committee looks at it. I'm not saying they'll take an undefeated Cincinnati over maybe, let's just say, a 1-loss Clemson or a 1-loss Notre Dame. I'm not saying that'll happen. I'm just keeping open the possibility because in a year like this, I think we need to be prepared for the unexpected. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying let's be open to it. Let's pay attention because none of us are believers in anybody in the Pac-12. Oklahoma and Texas have already played themselves out. Oklahoma State is their last hope. They lose another game, the Big 12 is shot. And I know we don't believe in the Pac-12. They are already canceling games, and they're already way too behind. I'm not going to get caught up in anything the Pac-12's doing.
The only, you know what I'm saying, maybe Oregon. The only team I really put some respect on their name is Oregon out there. Everybody else, I got to see it. But
true, but Oregon, you got to think about this. The problem is they are already canceling games. They're only going to have 8 games, I believe. So if they're already having this much trouble with the COVID test and everything, they should have just not even played. I mean, I'm dead serious. It's November 6th. So that's my whole point on that. We don't believe in them to begin with, and now we already canceling games. They ain't got it together. They probably shouldn't even play because they just, in the terms of the Power 5, they not relevant at all. So that's where I'm at. I'm just saying, let's be open. Let's pay attention. Team like Cincinnati or BYU might be worth paying attention.
No, you're absolutely right. If you kind of war game that out, remember the ACC this year, they are just top 2 teams play. It doesn't matter what conference or side or whatever nonsense you're in. So it's likely that if Clemson beats Notre Dame, which we think they are, Notre Dame is still going to be the team they're going to play. I mean, I guess maybe Miami might have a case, but even then, whatever team shows up to play Clemson, if we just assume Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama are just mortal locks, we just put them off to the side, then the ACC runner-up has 2 losses. The SEC runner-up has 2 losses. The Big 10 probably going to have 2 losses. Consider Michigan and Penn State have already lost, and they've had some other issues with that conference. The Pac-12 is virtually out besides maybe Oregon. There is going to be a gaping hole at number 4, like we saw this past year, where we had 3 just locks, and then we had I don't know who gets 4th, so they can just get wrecked by Alabama or whoever. So in this year, this would ever be the year to get a team like that in. It looks like it. So if you kind of play it out, these teams are worth paying attention to. I think another thing to watch, both BYU and Florida, you have 2 quarterbacks that are rapidly shooting up draft boards. Drink, you had already kind of talked about with BYU. Zach Wilson is throwing the pigskin off the football. I mean, he's 4th in the nation in passing, and he is skyrocketing draft boards. And I think a lot of draft analysts now believe that you could have him and Kyle Trask going somewhere in the middle of the first round potentially. And I think if you're a scout or if you're a team, if they keep playing like this and Trey Lance doesn't play another game, I got to wonder if I'm not going to take a guy that's been playing recently and I got a lot more film on than I've got one dude playing 10 games 2 years ago. So those are both guys to watch. But yeah, the SEC, that battle, you guys pretty much covered it. They are still playing the game in Jacksonville. It's just, no fan, limited fans, I think 15,000. So it's Georgia, I think, gets the nod because of the ranking, but I don't know. I feel like Georgia's defense may be a tad overrated. And the way I look at that is, okay, we've seen them play one elite offense in Alabama, and they had 41 hung on them. Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas, and Kentucky are the other 4. And I mean, they did a decent job of stopping those teams. Tennessee put 21 on them, but the game was never really close. But I feel like Florida's offense is pretty much proven they're for real. I mean, they've done it in every game. And their defense looked better against Missouri. It wasn't amazing, but it definitely was something much closer to what you would hope they'd have if they're going to really take this to the next level. And I think they're getting some guys back from COVID. Things are starting to settle. I would imagine if I had to pick the best unit, it would be the Florida offense, barely over the Georgia defense. But then I think that, Georgia's really not looked great. I mean, they had lost Alabama, then they had a bye week, and then they really kind of looked sleepy against Kentucky. A 14-3 score. That's not very impressive. I mean, if you're telling me they're the number 5 team in the country, I know Kentucky, they try hard and believe in themselves, and they're all great down there with the Stoops and all that, but that's not good. I mean, come on. So I think that I think Florida can probably make one more play, but that's going to come down to one play, and that's a rivalry that, man, you throw out the stats, you throw out the numbers. I mean, you just see what happens. But there's a lot of pressure on Dan Mullen in Florida to win that game, because if Dan Mullen loses that, he lost it twice in a row. And you're looking at the third straight year of losing to Georgia, losing one more game, and going 10-2 or 9-2 or whatever this year, and going to a New Year's Six bowl. I mean, at some point, they ain't gonna cut it even for Florida standards. So you gotta imagine they're looking at that. Michigan gets a little lucky; they get a bounce back game against Indiana. I think that Michigan loss last week was pretty bad, and that really stung, and it kind of killed a lot of narratives. You've already had Penn State drop a game, you had Michigan drop a game. I mean, what are we doing, Big Ten? You were supposed to save us, and all we got's Ohio State. I guess Rutgers, they won their first game. Hooray. So undefeated Rutgers, but you get to bounce back against number 13 team. You win that game, you can kind of get that back on track and at least make it still look respectable when you get to Ohio State. So you hope that happens. Clemson, that game might be a little closer. I mean, they looked pretty bad against Boston College, at least the first half of that game. But I think if you look at how well old DJ played, by the second half, and how they really kind of found their stride, you saw the Heisman candidate in Travis Etienne. I think they'll find a way to win that game. And I got a little bit of a look at Notre Dame this year. They do look overrated. I mean, they just don't look like – they look like a nice team, but they don't look like the number 4 team in the country. So I think that they're going to figure out a way to win that game. And I guess I'm a little excited to see if Oregon's actually any good. I think we kind of maybe forgot that they were pretty close last year, and you have to wonder with all the crap going on if they can really put a product on the field that's like legitimately good. But maybe they do, and maybe they are the surprise 4th team. But other than them, that whole conference is a wash. So they should run the table, and if they do, maybe they're in it. We'll see.